Ever feel like, you're stuck in traffic, but like on the information superhighway, we can stream movies in seconds, but sending value, that's a whole different story, am I right?
Right.
So today's deep dive, we're going to try to untangle that. It all starts with Polygon 2.0. We've got their white paper right here, plus your own notes on, well, boosting audience engagement. Kind of meta, don't you think?
Very meta. And, Polygon is aiming for something really big here, becoming the internet's value layer, not just the technology, but a whole new way we exchange, well, value.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but my brain needs a minute to catch up. Value layer, it sounds kind of abstract. You know what I mean? Break it down for me.
Imagine a world where sending money is as easy as sending an email, or where owning a piece of like a digital project is as simple as clicking a button. That's the idea behind the value layer. Seamless, frictionless exchange of value, just like information flows online today.
So no more jumping through hoops to pay a friend overseas. No more complicated contracts for simple collaborations.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that Polygon is already handling millions of transactions daily. But to be the value layer, they're thinking bigger, much bigger. We're talking billions of users.
Wow, billions. Okay, so how do they plan on scaling up like that? What's the secret sauce?
It all centers around their new native token, POL. Now, this isn't just another cryptocurrency. This is designed to be the engine of this entire value layer.
Right, so POL is the fuel. But what makes it different from, say, Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Great question. Think of it this way. Bitcoin was like the first car. Revolutionary, but it had its limitations.
Yeah.
Ethereum was like the first sports car, faster, sleeker, but still room for improvement. POL's taking the best of both worlds and building on it.
I like where this is going. Give me the rundown.
First off, POL tackles security. Think of it like a digital Fort Knox for the entire network.
Yeah.
It's keeping everyone's assets safe and sound.
Security is huge, especially when we're talking about something as important as, value exchange. What else?
Second, POL rewards those who help keep the network running smoothly, the validators.
Right.
Remember, I mentioned billions of users. Well, someone's going to make sure all those transactions happen without a hitch.
So these validators, they're like the unsung heroes of the blockchain world.
Exactly. And POL rewards them for their efforts. Think of it like earning interest just for helping to maintain the network.
Okay, I see how that incentivizes people to be responsible validators, right? But there's more, right? You mentioned POL as like a multi-tool or something.
Absolutely. The third core function of POL is all about giving the community a voice. By holding POL, you get a say in the future of Polygon, proposing changes, voting on upgrades, truly shaping how the ecosystem evolves.
So it's like having ownership not just in a token, but in the entire network. Very cool.
That's the beauty of it. And what's really interesting is how POL addresses some of the limitations of earlier cryptocurrencies. Take Bitcoin's fixed issuance rate, for example. Great for scarcity, but it can make it hard to adapt and grow.
Right, like trying to pay for a Tesla with only pennies.
Exactly. But POL has a clever issuance rate designed to maintain security, while also allowing the network to expand and onboard those billions of users. It's like having your cake and eating it too.
All right, color me impressed. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the layer in the room. The staking layer, it sounds pretty high-tech, even for a blockchain geek like me.
It's definitely one of the most innovative aspects of Polygon 2.0, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine a system that can manage thousands of blockchains at once, all humming along in sync. That's the staking layer.
Okay, but in English this time, what's the TLDR version?
Think of it like a global air traffic control system for blockchains. The staking layer makes sure everything runs smoothly, prevents collisions, and keeps the whole network safe and efficient.
And this system, it's powered by, you guessed it, POL, right?
Precisely. POL is it's the fuel that incentivizes validators to keep everything running smoothly. But it's not just about validating transactions. It's about proving accuracy, ensuring data availability. It's a whole symphony of tasks that maintain the network's integrity.
Okay, so these validators, it sounds like they've got their work cut out for them. What's in it for them? Aside from knowing they're keeping, the digital world turning.
Well, imagine getting rewarded for your contributions, not just once, but 3 times over. That's the beauty of being a validator in the Polygon ecosystem. 3
income streams. Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
First, you've got your base rewards for simply being an active and reliable validator. It's think of it like getting a salary for keeping the lights on. Makes sense. Then there are transaction fees. Every time someone moves value across the network, boom, validators get a cut.
Ah, so the busier the Polygon network gets, the more potential there is to earn.
Exactly. It's like owning a toll booth on that digital superhighway we were talking about
Huh.
earlier.
Right.
And finally, some chains within the Polygon ecosystem. They offer additional bonuses, like extra tokens or something, to validators who help secure their specific corner of the network.
Okay, that does sound pretty enticing, I gotta say. But let's shift gears for a second. Let's talk about this community treasury. We touched on it a bit earlier. What makes this different from, say, a company's, like a company's coffers?
That's a great question. See, with the community treasury, it's all about decentralization.
Hmm.
It's about putting the power in the hands of the community, the POL holders.
So instead of a select few deciding how these funds are used, everyone gets a say. More like a community fund than like a company's bank account.
Precisely. It's about transparency, community ownership, and just ensuring the ecosystem has all the resources it needs to really thrive. And especially in these early stages of Web3, this kind of community-driven funding, it can be a game changer.
So how does the community treasury actually support the growth of Web3? Like, what does that look like?
Imagine a world where funding for innovative projects, it isn't decided by like venture capitalists. It's decided by the community itself, the people who really believe in the power of Web3. That's the potential we're talking about.
So projects with the most community support, they get funded. That's democracy in action.
Precisely. And what's even more intriguing is that the white paper, it outlines a system for potentially burning excess POL, like if things go extremely well.
Burning POL, that sounds kind of drastic. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Imagine you have a limited edition comic book.
Oh?
If you burn a few copies, what happens to the value of the remaining ones?
They become even more valuable, right? Because now they're even more rare.
Exactly. By burning POL, you're essentially reducing the supply, which can then, in turn, increase the value of the remaining tokens. It's a way to reward long-term holders, and it's a way to reinvest in the ecosystem's growth.
That's a pretty clever mechanism. Okay, one last piece of the puzzle I'm dying to understand. This transition from MATIC to POL. For our listeners who are already familiar with Polygon, this might seem like kind of a head-scratcher. Can you clear the air for us?
Absolutely. So think of MATIC as Polygon's trusty sidekick.
Right.
Right. It's been there from the beginning, helping to kind of build the foundation.
Right.
But POL, well, POL is like the superhero upgrade, faster, stronger, and ready to take on the challenges of the value layer.
So MATIC is bowing out gracefully. What happens to everyone's existing MATIC tokens?
Fear not. Polygon has a smooth transition plan in place. They're offering a one-to-one swap, one MATIC for one POL. Think of it like trading in your old phone for the latest model.
So even those who've had MATIC, tucked away for a while, they can still get in on the action.
Exactly. And Polygon is making it easy for everyone to participate, even those with MATIC, locked up in staking contracts or other platforms. They've outlined several mechanisms to make sure there's a fair and accessible transition for all.
So no one gets left behind. I like that. But ultimately, it's all about POL now, right?
Precisely. Holding POL will be key to, participating in the governance, the staking, and ultimately shaping the future of this whole value layer.
We've covered so much ground today, from the ambitious vision of the value layer to the nuts and bolts of POL and this ingenious staking layer. It's a lot to process, but in a good way. Any final thoughts before we open things up to our listeners?
If Polygon 2.0 delivers on all of its promises, we're talking about like a fundamental shift, right? In how we interact with the internet, with each other, and with the very concept of value itself. It's an exciting time to be paying attention to this space, that's for sure.
No doubt about it. Okay, well, before we go, you left yourself a little note here about wanting to get some feedback from our awesome listeners. What did you have in mind? All this talk about easy value exchange, it's got me thinking, if sending value was as easy as like sending a text, what would you create? What problems would you solve? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's keep this conversation going. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future deep dives.